car. You stay here. I'll be right back.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay,
Dun, 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 dun.
I'm back.
Dun, dun, dun.
We are here.
Dun, dun,
This is our review for Terminator.
Dark Fate. So, here we are, guys. Finally, we are here. This is Markell.
And this is Ronnie.
And we're here with the Ronnie and Markell Make a Podcast show. And thank you for tuning in because we're about to give you guys the full breakdown on Terminator Dark Fate. I got a chance to see this movie a little bit early. I've been waiting on this guy to see it.
Like 2 or 3 weeks ago?
Yeah,
you got to see it?
Beautiful. Went to the premiere for it, so it's pretty awesome to get a chance to see it on the big screen. Sucky thing about my press seats was how close I was, but we won't talk about that.
In the front row?
It was just like up here, like, oh god, so I was like, okay, well, you know what? That's fine. Thank you guys so much for giving me the tickets. I'm humble and happy to have them. But anyway, with that said, this guy's actually seen it now, so we're going to show you guys and break down all of the little tidbits from the story to visuals to everything. So let's dive in to our breakdown here. Woo! Wait, let me stop this. It didn't come out right.
It did?
Because you know what it is? I'm gonna have to put that up there because I keep looking. I keep going back and forth to it, and I notice myself do it, and I'm just like, wait a second, this is not right. I mean, that's not so bad. All right, we'll just keep it rolling. Let's just keep it rolling. All right.
Oh, so
Starting over.
that.
Yeah, start this again. And one more time. Wait, did it start?
Yeah, it started.
Oh, did it?
Now you stopped it.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait, no, it started.
Hello.
What up?
I'm Markell.
And I'm Ronnie.
And we're here with the Ronnie and Markell Make a Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Terminator Dark Fate review. So we're going to dive deep in right away. We're going to put the disclaimer out there. If you're watching this, hopefully you've seen the movie already.
Hopefully you liked the movie.
Hopefully you liked the movie. But if you didn't, we're still going to break it down for you. There are going to be tons of spoilers, so sorry in advance for anybody out there. But you've been warned. Now, let's dive right in.
Plus, you're on the internet. Of course there's spoilers. There's spoilers out there before us, so...
You got spoiled by just, like, looking at, like, a picture. You scrolling through your feed somewhere, and it was just like, okay, oh, no, he died! I'm going to give a big spoiler right away right now that I know Ronnie may not know what I'm talking about, but it'll come up a little bit later, and we'll explain it. One spoiler right away is she does call him Carl.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That'll make sense later. So, here we go. Let's dive into the story. The story of Terminator, sir. What's our story of the Dark Fate?
So, let me use one of my voices. Nah, I'm not going to use it. So, in 1998, 3 years after Sarah Connor and our boy Arnold defeated the T-1000 and averted, basically, Judgment Day, so to speak. Sarah Connor and her son John are relaxing at a beach. I don't want to spoil too much before we spoil it. So
in Guatemala.
But yeah, they're in Guatemala. Well, no, I could go right in, right?
Dude, we're spoiler free.
Yeah. We're going for
Suddenly, a T-800 appears!
Yeah, so Skynet basically caught up with Sarah Connor, and he had the last laugh after all because Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up and kills the shit out of John Connor. Which was not something that I saw coming in this movie. I had
First
a feeling,
2 minutes, my friend.
I had a feeling that was going to happen, like John Connor wasn't going to live in this one, but I did not know it was going to happen at the hands of a fucking shotgun. Like that.
Yes.
Why is a shotgun, by the way, always like the weapon of choice for like a really hard kill?
It's a bigger gun and it can kill
kill the shit out of you.
If it's a smaller thing, it's going to obliterate it. Even if it's a bigger thing, it's still going to have the most amount of impact.
Alright, so this new film, Terminator Dark Fate, is 22 years later, and there's an advanced model Terminator. Of course, there always is.
Always.
A Terminator model called Rev 9, who's sent back into Mexico City to go after a girl named Danny. Or Danielle Ramos. That's his target, basically. But it's not from Skynet this time, guys.
Who is it from?
Skynet doesn't exist this time. This time, it's an evolved version, I guess, of Skynet called Legion.
It's Legion, the evolved form of Skynet.
So then, one of my favorite characters in this, Grace, who's played by Mackenzie Davis, she is sent back in time, basically, to stop this Terminator from killing Danny who in the beginning part of the movie you think is like maybe her unborn child is, you know, the leader who's going to start this rebellion to take down Legion. But wait, there's more.
Well, it seems to me that first and foremost, this movie is by far one of the best, I would say, since T2. I gotta say that right off the bat. But in the story, you find out. So am I spoiling this?
Let's go full on in.
Full on in. Okay, so the movie starts out right away with Grace. Grace is your female Terminator here, or so we think. She's actually more of like your Kyle Reese type. But the only big thing is that she's been enhanced, or as she specifically calls herself in the movie, augmented super soldier.
Which makes sense thinking about like advancements we've made in technology. And if you're thinking about
wait before you say that makes sense. Tell me the abbreviation for her augmented super soldier.
No, I'm saying I know what the Captain America. I get that.
No, not that. I'm talking about just take the first letters of augmented super soldier.
I don't know.
ASS. She's an ass. She's literally she plays.
Oh yeah, and her character is
kind of an ass in this movie. So I was just like, oh, that's interesting.
Sense. But no, I meant in the fact that like being that this movie is supposed to directly take place after the first and second one, it makes sense because in the original, I don't remember his name, but the guy who sent back in time,
Kyle Reese, I just said.
Oh, Kyle Reese, yeah. Kyle Reese was supposed to protect Sarah Connor.
Oh wait! You mean John Connor's or Sarah Connor's baby daddy?
Yeah,
Kyle Reese.
Sarah Connor's baby daddy.
Exactly.
Like he came, and that dude was just straight up human. So you know, so it was good to see that all these years later. It kind of that's why I said it kind of made sense that she said that she was human like several times if you saw the trailer. So it made sense that she was like enhanced, like because it's like, well, how's a human being supposed to take down this monster? But
I'm here to protect you.
It makes sense, and just from my opinion, I thought that she did a pretty good job.
So overall story, so the story that we're telling here is basically the movie is set around a character named Danny, who's being hunted by the Rev 9, aka Gabriel
who
Luna.
has no clue why. She's just trying to go to work, and this guy shows up at her factory job and tries to kill the shit out of her.
Literally in the first 10 minutes, she loses her entire family.
Yeah.
So she loses her dad and her brother. And you know what I'm wondering? And this may be a small little thing, just because it's recent in my head. I wonder if he killed the dog too, because they actually mentioned the dog's name, which is Taco. Which is, I'm sorry, they were a Mexican family, and their dog's name was Taco. Come on.
I mean,
what?
they were going with cliches, I guess.
Yeah, that was the real cliche there. Like, we Mexicans don't necessarily make their dog named Taco. That's I'm going to name my dog fried chicken.
Look
at him.
They were like, look, we're in Mexico. We going with full-on stereotypes.
All right, cool.
And so, what did you think about the intros of both characters? Because the naked intros they always do. And why do they come naked? Have they ever explained that in the Terminator universe? Why they show up naked?
Honestly, I will say that I think that the reason that they come naked is because they haven't, for some reason, figured out how to transition things from the future to the past that are
maybe if they sent them with clothes, they would catch fire or something?
Maybe. I'm assuming in that, tube or something, maybe it's too complicated to send.
But then why does the villain? The villain's normally way more powerful than the good guy, so why does even the villain show up naked?
Well, it's the same thing. They're using the same technology to be able to do that. I will assume that in the Terminator universe, and someone out there can correct me if I'm wrong, I would assume in the Terminator universe that since the machines are the ones who are more advanced than the humans, that I would think that they would be the ones that have the technology, and humans have snuck and decided to use that technology to save themselves. So that's like the thing. It's like, oh wait, they got that thing? We could use that thing that they're using for whatever reason, this time travel, and we can use that. Or it could be the other way around. It could be that the humans discover it this way because they're like, the only way we can stop this is if we stop it before it ever happens. And then, the Terminators find out, what are they doing? No, we got to do that. We can do it better.
Now I wonder, will we have any more sequels for this movie, and will it end? Because we got backstory within the story. We get backstory on Grace a little bit. we get the plot and story. We didn't get a whole lot of backstory on Legion, so I don't know if that's leaving an opening for more movies to tell.
Let's face it, we didn't get a whole bunch of backstory in the first Terminator for Skynet, so it's not a huge loss. It's very simple. I'm an AI, and I've created a bunch of different.
We didn't, but they
guys.
do explain a lot about Skynet in Terminator 2, though.
Correct, a sequel. So that's
what I'm saying. Maybe if they plan to make a sequel, maybe we'll get more backstory on Legion.
So story-wise, again, the breakdown is, now this girl Danielle is all on her own, except for she's with Grace. They run into the Terminator, who literally almost murders her, and murders multiple of her family members. They go on this whole car chase. And they wind up meeting with Sarah Connor. Sarah Connor and them go together. They wind up meeting Arnold. And then basically from there, they wind up having one last battle where what Sarah Connor calls in the movie a kill box, which is basically take the bad guy, put the thing that he wants into this little place, and then bait him in and kill him. Which, essentially, spoilers, they do. They are successful in doing that.
Funny, too.
But not without losses, of course.
Other things that are hidden within this movie, which is like, our what do you call it? Us needing technology all the time. I feel like Sarah Connor's character showed that we don't always need technology. She didn't rely heavily on technology as much as we do, especially in this day and age. She was, kind of did her, and then Grace's character kind of, they were opposite. They were yin and yang, but they ultimately ended up needing each other.
Yeah. So. I think ultimately that's the same thing with most dystopian movies where it's us versus the machine, which is the idea of that conversation of, how much technology do we need and how much of our, freedoms, do we need to give up in order for people to, actually live a normal life? Are we giving up living a normal human life and interacting with the rest of the world for conveniences of technology?
And then there was another point during the factory scene that was very relevant to our times, which her brother was losing his job because he was being replaced by a machine.
I mean, we see things like that, not to get too political, but we see things like that happening all the time in our, local supermarkets. I won't put any retail chains on blast, Target, Walmart, I won't, call them out.
I mean, everywhere, but you're starting to see more self-checkouts, I'm just like, okay. It's not, Terminator in general is a very scary, idea to begin with as a film, because, how far are we, think about the advancements in technology we make every year. Is it unrealistic that one day our AI could get so smart that it could decide, I don't need humans?
I would hope that from the years and years, this is Terminator number... Six? Out of 6 Terminators, 3 how many? 5 or 6 Transformers, 3 Matrices, Blade Runner. I don't know if you developers out there are realizing this, that we don't
put so much
have
faith
AI
into it.
Like this.
It's good to have. Just don't make it so intelligent to the point where it can do... Oh, it's fully functional. It can do 98% of everything itself.
Exactly.
That's probably not a good idea.
That doesn't make sense.
Especially because think about too that at one point in the movie it was saying Legion started to they made it so it learned on its own after time.
Well, yeah,
we have technology like that now. Isn't that kind of scary?
Yeah, I mean it's always scary, but I'm a big fan of software and hardware and advancing humankind and science and things like that.
Hardware.
Dirty bastard. The thing is I feel like obviously these are lessons and it's good to have the conversation about how far we should go. That's a whole nother topic. We can do an entire podcast on the pros and the cons of technology in our world. But with Terminator, it's just it's a lot of fun to see.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to see, these unstoppable Terminators try to come after us and kill us. That slides us from the story over to the characters. So if we go over to the characters,
did you have any that stood out to you that were your favorites overall?
I mean, in this particular movie, no one stood out to me. Obviously, Arnold is the key person, but he, doesn't have a lot of time in this movie.
There's I was just about to say that too. There's another point. If you're going into Terminator Dark Fate going, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he ain't in a lot of the movie.
He's in about the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, about the last 30 minutes of the movie.
So again, sorry again if that's a spoiler for you, but that does not take away from the movie. Let me tell you right away.
Not at all.
Going back to story for 2 seconds. Overall, for me, I think what this movie did for me is let me know that a story like this could be made without Terminator being connected to it, but it's a good thing that Terminator connected to it, because here's why. From a bad standpoint, this movie would have heavily been compared to Terminator if it was not a Terminator movie. So I'm glad that it did, get a chance to shine as a Terminator movie.
I thought it also proved that they can make Terminator movies without Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, that was also a big part of it, yeah.
And they could make just as impactful, awesome movies with the star of because our main protagonist and protector is a woman this time around.
Well, yeah, it's just Sarah Connor. She is the ultimate, heroine, along with Mackenzie Davis, as well as the character Danny Ramos. I just thought it was just a really nice touch that all the characters brought to the table. So starting off with Grace's character. So pros and cons for her. So pros for me, this is just my breakdown of this character, and you can, chime in on what you think.
Probably gonna agree with most.
The character itself, very hard hitting, very tough, very much a soldier. Take no shit. Will break your neck, rip your throat out as she threatened Sarah Connor a couple times. I will say that the pro was, of course, something that had to do with story. With her overall, what I immediately called out when I saw this character was she was very much a universal soldier. Now, for some of you guys out there that might have been born, I don't know, year 2000 or somewhere around that,
you're like universal soldier. What are you talking about?
You might have seen some of the straight to DVD ones. I'm talking about numero uno,
the first
one,
the good one,
really with Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren. That particular movie was with soldiers who were enhanced in such a way, but the downside to them was similar to the downside to Grace in this movie, which was the fact that they only were designed for basically sort of like, as she mentioned in the movie and in direct dialogue.
What was it?
Burst, a 2-minute burst, which is designed to kill the Terminator in 2 minutes or less, or pretty much that person dies because they go into this weird seizure-like state. Their metabolism drops, and basically they just need a bunch of drugs, or they turn into Blade. I need some serum.
Which kind of didn't make sense either. Only because the backstory scenes they show with Grace, they don't kill any Terminators in 2 minutes. Literally, the scenes they show us, they almost get killed in 2 minutes.
Well,
not them.
Let me correct you on that. The scenes that you saw in terms of her backstory was before she was enhanced. So they never showed us actual...
No, I'm saying, so, what about the other people around her? Or was she the first that was augmented?
I don't think she was the first, because she already knew about a program.
That's what I'm talking about. So if it was already a program, so some of the people around her should have been able to do that, right?
I don't think the people that she was on that helicopter with. So just to bring you into what we're talking about, there's a scene where after we learn that Grace is a 2-minute machine that needs some drugs, or she's going to essentially shut down. It needs to be cooled down by ice, which is a very big, anybody remembers Universal Soldier, a very, very big callback to Universal Soldier.
Well, I don't think necessarily she needed to be cooled down by it. I think Sarah Connor kind of figured that out, right? She did that.
Yeah, she decided to do that, and then she put together all the drugs that she stole from the pharmacy and injected.
That was a funny point too, because she was Danny's like, "How did you know to mix all that stuff together?" And she's like, "I didn't." And she's like,
"I'm gonna just." She had drugs on her. I'm gonna put it in a syringe and put it in her.
She could have killed her, but.
Yeah, she didn't care. She's Sarah Connor, which we're going to get to her momentarily. But for Grace's character, in her backstory, what you're talking about, there's a moment where we go into her head as she's unconscious, and we get a backstory of her on a plane, which very much feels like, I don't know why, but that whole sequence to me felt very much like...
Wait, before you say it, did it sound like the movie with Tom Cruise?
Yes, Edge of Tomorrow, yes! Absolutely.
I thought the same thing.
I was like, she feels like... Well, she wasn't in that. I forgot who was the girl in that one.
That was Mary Poppins. What's her name?
That's not
the new Mary Poppins. We have a computer right here. Like,
no, it's okay. We'll look it up. But it felt very much reminiscent of Edge of Tomorrow, which is really nice. They had no machines. They showed
Blunt.
you Emily Blunt. Yes. What's that? John Krasinski's wife, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Quiet Place lady. That to me reminisced very much back to Edge of Tomorrow. And it was really nice to see, you get a chance to see full-fledged this dark apocalyptic future where the Rev 9s are just ruling shit, because they are, to me, when I first saw them, they were a nice hybrid of some of the machines from the Matrix with all the tentacles.
Yeah, with the spikes coming out.
Yeah, and it also told me as well, it's like, wow, hopefully when they do the Venom 2 movie, that they give a call to whoever did the CG for the liquid metal that was there.
Awesome.
It was beautiful.
Yeah,
but you get a chance to see them completely wreck shop and just literally kill, the humans there, and almost kill Emily Blunt's character. No, I'm sorry. Not Emily Blunt's character. Mackenzie. Mackenzie Davis in this one. And then you get a backstory. So no one on that ship was already enhanced, because that was another weird part about the movie. There's a moment where there's a Rev 9 speeding over at her, and she's laying on the ground and she has a gun, and for some reason she begs to be a part of the program, as she's like, been riddled with stab wounds, and they've apparently got her back to the base.
Yeah.
And she's just like, put me in there, coach. Don't let me out. Let me I volunteer as tribute for this program. And it's like, oh, okay. What program the fuck? What are you talking about? And then they just show doctors working on her, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's an enhancement program. All right, I get it. But it was just kind of weird. It was just like, there was no...
I think they were just trying to give us a quick little backstory.
They give it to us in 2 minutes or less?
They gave us a couple... I think maybe that's why I said maybe they do plan to make another film, because they just gave us just enough to let us know what was going on.
Oh yeah, well when we get towards the end, I can point out some things that I saw as some of the things that they're definitely going to hopefully take advantage of that was brought up in this movie, that they can continue on into an entire trilogy. I could see.
Mackenzie,
please don't make 5 of these.
I feel like for me, summing up Mackenzie, I thought she was badass.
She was
badass, straightforward, and definitely, I think you said this before, like a good choice for the incredible She-Hulk TV show. Seeing her in action in this, I said, yeah, okay, I could see that.
Because I don't know what it is. I think it's also, from a visual standpoint, a lot of people may disagree because of how big she is. Well, I don't know how big they're going to go with.
But I think, not to get off topic, but I think for that, I think they're going to go with someone weaker looking, just because it goes with the whole Dr. Jekyll and Hyde type of thing when you become She-Hulk.
See, but that's the thing. She's not. That's what you have to understand. She-Hulk. Just to get on Tomorrow for a second. She is not that character. She is just She-Hulk all the time. It's very different from her cousin. It's not the, no, I have this thing that I'm cursed. I have to walk the world and, get the cure for it. Nah, she's cool with this. She's in that state and she's just wow, this is way better than I was. I'm, muscle bound, I'm sexy. I
so
look
she
great.
has a lot more of her.
She's very much if anyone knows the newer Hulk, Amadeus Cho, they're very much in control and aware of these powers. So there's less of that Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde, and more of the I'm the big person that now causes bigger problems, but at the same time she still got to keep her anger in check, because she's a lawyer. So there's a lot to that. We'll definitely get into it.
Moving back to compare two people now, Linda Hamilton versus Natalie Reyes, who plays Danny. What did you think about Danny basically taking the place of Sarah Connor's character from the first movie?
So, in terms of Danny Reyes, Danny Ramos in this movie, she to me was really great. I believed in her. She for some reason reminded me very much of what's her name from Jane the Virgin? I forget her name.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I forget her name offhand too.
Yeah, she reminded me of her, obviously, because I'm a big fan of that show. What she exuded to me was a very strong sense of, she had the vulnerability that Linda Hamilton had in the original and had in this movie as well, but she also had that fire as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think she was a little bit stronger than Linda Hamilton, because Linda Hamilton, and I guess given the time period too, her character was a lot more scared for a majority of the movie than anything else.
Yeah.
Whereas she was scared in the beginning, like losing her brother and her dad, but then she kind of, all right, man.
She got out of there pretty quick.
Yeah, like, all right, man. I got to deal with this. I don't want to run. Let's just deal with this shit.
Let's take him
down.
down.
I gotta die. Let's try taking him down, type of thing. So, which is different.
I think overall her character. Some people might have seen her character as like just this basic run-of-the-mill average Joe, which is pretty much what Sarah Connor was.
Gina
Rodriguez. Thank you.
So you think their acting styles are similar?
Very similar in the sense of like I can be calm, cool, and collective, but then I will let you know too. Like I'll cut a bitch. Like it's not a problem to get into some kind of trouble, which makes sense. I'll give a cue out to not for Ron Howard specifically, but I will say for the makers of Han Solo. My only gripe with that movie, and this is just getting slight off topic, but it is related to pop culture, so, just hang with me for a second. Bear with me. Han Solo's, my biggest issue I had with that movie was that guy that they put in front of me, not the actor, because he's a good actor, but the person that they presented for this movie for 2.5 hours, I do not see this guy becoming Harrison Ford's character. Because Harrison Ford's character is, like, not that much... He's maybe 10, 15 years
so you're
younger.
Comparing that to Danny? You saw Danny's supposed to be this leader of resistance?
The character they introduced later on, spoilers, there's a part of the storyline in which Sarah Connor believes, she actually, for 1 second, turns into somebody in the comment section of your typical social media and goes, oh, well, let me guess, the Terminator wants to kill her unborn child. Wrong, motherfucker. That's not it at all.
Different little concept here.
That's not it at all. This concept here is she is already John Connor, which something Sarah Connor realizes later on. It's like, oh, you're basically John Connor. You're not me.
And I'm take it from that point and take it back and get your opinion. First, I'm gonna share my opinion, which is the right at the beginning. With the what do you call it? They had like kind of the special effects like they did to make Robert Downey Jr. look younger.
Yeah.
And they had that with Linda Hamilton, Arnold, and Edward Furlong.
Yep.
That whole scene was pretty cool, but you could tell that like, all right, these guys ain't this young. Like they recreated that scene for the movie. What did you think of that scene? Because I thought it was hilarious, even though what happens isn't hilarious. It was just like, Sarah kind of left her guard down for 1 second.
I think that was some perfect timing. I think that they definitely, story-wise, visually beautiful and hilarious, just as you said. I agree with you. Visually, I thought it was great too, because yes, we do know that everybody does not have the lovely, budget or money of Disney and be able to DH people in such a way. They did a pretty decent job.
Really good.
I thought that it was also very ballsy of the writers, or Tim Miller in this movie, the director, to make that the first scene. He's like, hey, guess what? I want to let you know, this story is not about John Connor.
Nothing to do with John.
Nope.
A lot of the
John
guys,
Connor is important in the story, but this is not about him.
Another thing, looking up the other writers besides James Cameron, a lot of the other writers were a part of earlier Terminator stuff. I didn't know that. Like, one of the writers also wrote the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So James Cameron kind of came with other people who have done other things in the Terminator universe already, so that's kind of cool too.
That makes sense. You already have people who are deeply rooted within the canon or the lore of Terminator, so why not talk to them? And that makes a lot of sense too, because I feel like every character in this movie has their own arc that they kind of go through, including Arnold, when we meet his character. So we've talked about Danny, we talked a little bit about Sarah.
On to our bad guy.
Well, right before we get to the bad guy, I do want to point out, something I liked about Sarah, which is Sarah has gone from, as you said, the innocent girl who really couldn't do anything, killed one Terminator in this movie, in Terminator 1, to this like sort of crazy girl who had her own Entertainment Tonight special
Did she
about her.
ultimately become? I know we're always comparing movies. Did she kind of became Laurie Strode, like in the new Halloween?
Very, very much Laurie Strode in that like grizzled, Terminator killer. Like she's grizzled, she curses, She takes no shit.
And
She's off the grid.
She also had the scene where she talked about getting the coordinates that we found out later from Arnold. But like, so she's just been killing Terminators all these years.
Yes, she's been showing up with the rickety wreck shotgun and other weapons, and literally when they pop out of there butt naked in their little thing,
she's like, boom,
boom, destroyed. And we're back. Thank you for listening to our sponsors.
Man, I had to drain the lizard.
We didn't need to know that. TMI, TMI.
Okay.
But yes, back to what we were saying. You know, Sarah Connor is at a point here where she's grown into the hard, grizzled badass that we know her to be. And very excited to see what happens next with her character. Jumping right into the villain. So the villain is played by none other than Gabriel Luna, who also, for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans out there, is your Robbie Reyes.
Ghost Rider.
Which is, I think it's hilarious. In this particular movie, if I remember correctly, Danny's real name is Natalia Reyes. Isn't that right?
Her real name? No, Daniela. Daniela Remus.
No. I'm talking about the actress.
Oh, her real name.
I think her real name is. When I looked it up, her name.
Yeah, I think it's
Natalia Reyes.
Yeah.
So I just think that's
Natalie Reyes.
Natalie Reyes. Sorry. So it's just interesting that like there's that little bit of connection, even though it's like a little far fetched. But I found that to be interesting. This particular guy, I really enjoyed. I think he has set himself apart as the Rev 9. With the T-1000 in comparison, because you can't... Robert Patrick.
No, they definitely had some similarities. Like, for instance, the one scene where Arnold and everybody gets away in a helicopter, and he meets the two cops, and he's like, "You boys know I can get a helicopter?" Like, that reminded me of, like, scenes where Robert Patrick, where he was like, "Yeah, you didn't have any chance to know where they're going." Like, you know.
Or, like, you got a nice car.
Yeah, like that. So that was a good balance. I do think he was a lot more lethal in terms of like his target and moving forward.
Yeah,
What's name was a little bit slower in that terms than Terminator 2. I feel like it wasn't as much as like he was a lot more intense.
Well, you could see that just again based on his like design. So talking about his design, I thought from a visual standpoint it was really nice, very solid the entire movie. I hate to shit on another movie for not having great visuals, but a movie that I saw that had a lot of great did not have a lot of great CGI was Gemini Man, and I looked at this movie and said, oh thank God, like somebody understands that I need to stay within this realm of this movie, like that's what I need to do.
Maybe they didn't have the budget. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, whatever it was.
The scene on the bridge, is that the first time that I'm trying to remember off memory. Is that the first time that the Rev 9 splits into two? I think it was, right? Because remember she told, Grace tells Danny, if they come after us, if they try to kill me, run. And then I think he splits into two, and that's when we found out, oh shit, this guy can split into two, so you can't really run.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that goes definitely exactly what I was going to say next is, I like the fact that they've updated the villain in this way, but they also gave the villain a very crucial weakness. One of the things that was thinking about Robert Patrick's T-1000, what was interesting about that character was that, the liquid metal back in the day when that came out just seemed so like, oh my God, how do you stop this thing? But realizing the fact that he's all liquid means that he's also, falls under the same kind of weaknesses of something of that particular material. Hence, was it the nitro?
It was like the nitro oxide.
Yeah,
something which I thought they were.
Sorry for our science. We're not science bros.
Which I thought for this film, I thought they were going to go the same route. I thought like they're going to kill him by trying to do the nitro thing again, but they went a totally different.
Went different.
Direction.
Which I loved because now in the Rev 9's case, he has two forms. He has an exoskeleton which looks very similar to the T-800, but he also has a more symbiotic looking form. But
it was like an enhanced version of the T-1000.
Yeah, it's literally the T-1000 enhanced, but all black instead of silver, and then they had another one that was inside. So it was basically the skeleton and the skin being pulled apart, which I thought was awesome, and looked awesome every time they did it. I would love to ask Gabriel Luna, just from seeing this movie, just to know there was a lot of scenes there where he had to kind of wait until CGI kicked in to like make the cool scene. So just that moment of like
the first scene that he shows up in that I was like, I would love to ask this guy if he laughed. Literally when he first shows up and he falls and he's like, I feel like if I had to film that scene, I would like die laughing. Like
it's just like, did you ever break character or anything like that? Or another great scene for him was the prison scene or detention center.
Oh yeah,
where he's literally walking and cutting through.
And he
just
definitely had a lot more dialogue than Robert Patrick. Robert Patrick didn't have that much dialogue in terms of the overall film.
Yes,
he had a lot more dialogue in terms.
I would say that. Again, Legion is way more powerful than Skynet in this particular case, and the Rev 9s are way more powerful than T-1000s, because not only did he have more dialogue, more personality, the dude knew different languages and accents, but the last scene where he had a conversation, he's standing in front of the good guys, and he's basically looking at them and going like, why are you protecting this girl? Like, he's a machine, so he can't process. It's like, why don't you just give her up to me? Like, he's really having a moment where he's really
also don't forget the fact that he could hack into technology to use GPS to figure out where they were in the first place, which is a little different than the Terminator 2.
That was my only other thing, that it didn't bother me, but it also kind of puts it into a place where it's like, okay, I totally get the fact that if anybody saw this movie, if you had any problem with the distance of time of like, they show a moment where, let's say, he's trying to get a chopper, or the good guys get away from him for a short period of time. It takes him a good amount of time before you see him again, and he's like, okay, where is he? Oh, he's breaking into this place so he can get that. Yeah. It's like, damn, it took you a long time to get to that place. But I guess you can't really mess with that too much because he can't fly. He's not that good.
Yeah,
he still has to go by regular transportation.
Like, just because I'm a comedy guy, behind the scenes, like they showed like, what was he doing at that exact moment? Maybe he stopped at like McDonald's or something like, dun, 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 dun. And he had a burger.
Having a moment like I'll get to him.
He was on the cell phone with Legion, like, I'm getting to it. I stopped to get something to eat.
It's like, you have a protocol. Why are you not go following?
I can't hear you, Legion. I can't. Click.
He's like, I'm sorry, sir, but I've heard about these, McRibs, and I got to.
There's a whole other story within itself. Goes to the present to kill someone, and it's like, ooh. Like, it likes where you are. Like, I'm gonna just stay here.
I'm just gonna have myself some fun. Gonna go shopping spree. Treat yourself.
At the mall, like.
Ultimately, I think that's where, that's for me. I didn't really have too many rubs with this villain. I think even with T-1000. So I think they did a great job with him.
The only gripe I think I told you before we recorded was the fact that, like, when he was around people who weren't Danny in the Terminator, like the prison scene, and they like all grab him, he's like stabbing people up and all. But then when he got around like Grace and everybody, he was only using like one dimensional, like one thing. That's like probably the only gripe I had.
Okay, I could see that a little bit.
And then overall, in terms of the film, probably one of the only scenes that really didn't make sense to me was the first scene when Gabriel Luna shows up and he's disguised as a dad and he comes up with the gun, and then literally Grace shoots him in the face and you can see that he's a robot. So and then she like fucking guns him down and he goes down. Is how Danny's still coming after him like, my dad, and I'm like, clearly you have eyes in your head to see that's not your dad. Like, that part, like, if you're being super technical, that part I was like, and, she's trying to get past Grace to get to, I'm like, do you not see his face and stuff? And he had a gun pointed at you. Even if it was your dad, he just tried to kill you. Like, dude.
Okay, I can totally see that. That is definitely something that I didn't rub against, but now that you pointed out, that makes a lot of sense.
That really didn't make much sense, but okay. I
really do think that he did a great job. Gabriel Luna, shout out to you. This is the second time I remember him having some CGI work done, which, like I said, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and as Ghost Rider, which I'm hoping Marvel please continue. I know right now they kind of put an axe on it. Sometimes that means it might go to a different platform since Disney owns like 20 different platforms. So hopefully we do see that.
Including part of Terminator?
Yeah. 20th Century Fox. What did you say there? Oh, okay. Yeah. So at this point, there's another character I want to go into really quickly. Let's see. So we went over Grace. We went over Danny. We went over
we
the
didn't
Terminator,
do Arnold, did we?
And the last but not least, of course,
we didn't do Carl.
Carl, yes.
We gotta do Carl.
Carl in this movie, aka Arnold Schwarzenegger, is hilarious for the simple fact, and he actually says it's a moment in the movie. I won't spoil that for you, just because it's a funny moment where he literally tells you something and then you then do it. So I'm gonna leave that for you when you go see the movie because it's something that for that I don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
But yes, he goes by the name Carl. I will dance around this just a little bit.
Go ahead.
Only because Ronnie has an idea of what I'm gonna say. I just want to know, and somebody could tell me out there if this is true or not. But if anybody remembers in Arnold Schwarzenegger's real life, there was a time that wasn't so happy for his family. There was a time in which he had a child outside, that was outside of his marriage. With the maid of the house, and she was a Spanish lady, and they had a kid together. So, when we catch up with Arnold at the coordinates in here, Arnold, or AKA the T-800, has a Spanish girlfriend and a son named Mateo.
Which I was like, it wasn't his biological son, right? Because they couldn't have sex, but I think he just took care of them.
Correct. Yes, because the story was he pretty much ran into some guy. They got into a relationship in which, the lady was in a battered relationship, and he basically saved them and took care of them.
Right. He did say that.
So that he didn't mention that. Now, my question though is, what happened to the dude that was whooping on them? Because he's a T-800,
he probably got terminated.
I'm going to assume that he didn't make it.
Well, seeing as he was not the same Arnold from Terminator 2, he probably did kill that guy.
Yeah. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he saved them and just focused on them, seeing as where he is at this point.
But that was another cool thing about his character in this one, too. Like, in the beginning when we meet him, he unfortunately kills John Connor. But later on, when we see him all these years later, 20-some-odd years later, he actually did grow a conscience. And him, in turn, getting the family, he learned, what he took away from Sarah Connor. Which, that was, kind of a cool thing that they added to the film, too.
I will say though that I did like Arnold. It's gonna go into some of the things that he said in this movie. Everything he said in this movie was very memorable. His character was at the last arc. Spoilers: he does die in this movie, just like he did in the last one. But then
he died in all of them, just about. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, pretty much.
I didn't even, it wasn't until I saw this film that I feel like when I left the theater, I thought of that. Like, yeah, actually, he does die in all of them.
Does die in all of them. Good, sir. That, even including the one we shall not mention, which is Salvation.
I think except for Salvation and the first one.
That version of
those are the only two where he doesn't die a hero. The first one in Salvation, he doesn't die a hero. He's the bad guy. But the other ones, he died a hero. So,
totally makes sense. Genesis as well?
And then that... Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then thinking about that scene where he's trying to give Linda Hamilton I think it's like a Corona or something. And it's like, you can call me Carl. And she's like, I'm not going to fucking call you Carl. But then then at the very end, though, she actually winds up having to call him to help save the day.
So we to set that scene of what Ronnie's talking about. When Sarah Connor meets Arnold Schwarzenegger, as Ronnie mentioned earlier, completely blew John Connor's ass away. Bye-bye, John Connor. Boom, dead. At this point, what happened in the story when she first met him, again, Arnold is Carl from Carl Draperies, who is hilarious in the movie because he does drapes.
If you need somebody to do your drapes, call Carl.
Carl Draperies.
Well, technically, you can't call him because he fucking died. So
I mean, we should probably make some Carl Draperies t-shirts.
Maybe Miguel. Cool. What was the son? His son Miguel?
Mateo.
Maybe Mateo's drapes.
He may pick up their family business.
Yeah,
you never know. But there's a funny moment where he says that he goes by Carl, and he's explaining to Danny, Grace, and Linda Hamilton's character Sarah that he's Carl now, and she literally says to him, "I'll never fucking call you Carl." And he just kind of looks at her, and there's a moment later on where he's unconscious, and she's calling out to him, and Danny needs to be saved at the end of the movie.
Because Danny has the main power source that she took from Grace. Unfortunately, Grace doesn't make it in the end either.
Sorry, Grace.
And she cut out the power source in her, which is strong enough to kill the Rev 9.
Did you think about that for a second as I'm hearing you say that? Are you saying that all Danny needed was a little bit of grace in order to win in the end?
Needed a little bit of grace.
There you go.
And she got it when you cut it
Cut
out
the
of
check.
her. She cut it, and she cut it. Look, and she cut herself a little piece of grace, got that out of her, and then they used that, and then with the help of Arnold, they finally killed Rev 9. If it wasn't not for Arnold, they would have.
Before you get to that, I want to make sure that people understand what basically happened. So inside of this Universal Soldier, aka Grace, is a power core that helps them to. Basically, it's like the arc reactor for Iron Man.
Yeah, basically the same thing.
They're pulling that out, and if you pull that out, though, just like Tony Stark's in Part 1, you fucking kill him. But it is a very dangerous thing. Wait, is that the way they killed Amadeus in the first movie? The Jeff Bridges character? Was it with the arc reactor? No, he knocked him into the big.
Yeah, he knocked it into him. He fucking blew up.
Yeah, he totally blew up. Yeah, he ain't coming back in the sequel. So yes, she says that the only way you can defeat this character is if you use this. Now again, I rub against that just a little bit because it's like, okay, once again, human resistance in the future. You didn't send her with any fucking syringes so that she could actually be able to stab herself and keep it together.
Yeah, and could they have sent her with one of those, like in a little case? Man. Like send that separately in a little case. Like you'll need this, and you can kill him.
Trap him. Blow him up with this thing. Hold him there.
Well, I mean, if that was the case, though, she could have killed his ass in the factory.
Yeah. But that also kind of makes me wonder, too, like, okay, I know, again, this is time travel, and there's rules to it, and you got Terminator's rules, X-Men's rules, Avengers Endgame's rules. I can't keep up with it.
Yeah, everybody has different Star
Grace
Trek,
dies in this, but Grace is still alive in their time. So, we still... We're later on we're gonna probably get a protection of Danny and Sarah Connor, who are the only ones who live in the end, to go on. And
well, no, Grace lived technically. She lived because the Grace from the future died to save the present Grace, basically.
But now it's turning into the Nebula thing, which is like, oh, that's a Grace from another time because by Back to the Future logic. She died there, and the little girl should have disappeared from existence because she died. Like, so it's I don't know, whatever. I'm not gonna mess with it. A time travel. Wait. My favorite is whenever you're trying to explain time travel, just use what Bruce Banner did in Avengers Endgame. Time travel. Yeah. Like that's what it is. Whatever you think it is.
It's just like the Wakanda juice. You know what time travel does? Whatever the story needs to push it forward.
Vibranium.
That's what
yes.
it does.
It just pushes the story forward. What is that? What's that there? That shiny plot device? Is that what's keeping things going?
That's how it works. What was one of your overall scores for the film?
Overall score for the film.
1 out of 10. 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10. I'm going to give it a solid 8.5.
Interesting. I gave it an 8. I thought 8. I didn't give it 8.5. I gave it a solid 8.
Because I give it that half for, again, solid villain, solid protagonist. Great to see Arnold again. Pretty decent story. No after credits.
No after credits.
I thought it was pretty good. So this is our Terminator Dark Fate. Which one quick thing I want to plug on that. Dark Fate, which I thought was interesting in terms of the title, because Arnold has a moment where he talks about how fate is, and it kind of explains mostly, the moral in terms of the movie. The Dark Fate is basically that we all kind of make decisions, and we can make snap decisions. Just making a freaking decision can change the future. Not these particular sets of actions, but the fact that we made that decision.
Man, every decision you do in life in general could, alter something. Even now, you're not even just in the future.
Exactly.
I love eggs.
Hello, we love some eggs.
Green eggs and ham?
Ooh. No, this is actually Terminator Dark Fate. Easter eggs.
Oh.
Some Easter eggs and callbacks. So we have just a few Easter eggs and callbacks for the next few minutes, and we're going to give them to you. So if you caught any of these guys, kudos to you. If you didn't catch them, then that's your fault.
No, I'll tell you, we'll be right back.
What? Oh, I see what you did there. I was gonna say, like, are you cutting for break? What are you doing? So some callbacks. So you want to start back with you want to start with a
in
callback?
no particular order at all, but here's one callback. Dark Fate sees Sarah join forces with Terminator once again, and there's a scene where they're all going out, and you see Arnold about to pick up the sunglasses, which, as you know, in the first movie, and especially the awesome beginning of the second one, his sunglasses were always his trademark, but in this one, I thought it was weird that iconically we get to see him, but he decided not to wear them.
Yeah,
that was a little
even
different.
a moment where they used the music, dun, 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 and he picks him up and he just looks in the mirror and he's like, nah.
Yeah, and he puts them down.
Not this time.
I was like, not this time.
Which again is kind of a call out. One of the other call outs that he mentioned, which was a really great line, was the fact that he said, "I won't be back."
Yeah, I won't be back.
That was like, oh, okay, well, yeah. He told his family, his estranged family, that he has in this movie. Wait, no, is that real life or real? Oh, so sorry, sorry. Oh,
now, do you think they did that too? Because let's face it, time catches up with all of us. Linda Hamilton and Arnold are both getting super up in age. Like, just in case, kind of, if they go forward, with new stuff and new...
Well, Sarah Connor lived at the end, so...
I mean, think about how many years that they take, though, before a new Terminator movie comes out. Like who knows when they're going to make another one.
It'll be a few years. Money was good on this one. Another callback, or Easter egg, was Grace guns down the Terminator, like the scene where Sarah Connor is at the hospital... And she's, looking up at Arnold Schwarzenegger come down the hall, and she's like, no, which it's kind of there's a twofer there, right? So in this particular situation, Danny is right there where the Terminator is about to kill her. So it's a callback to a couple different situations. Sarah Connor almost got her head blown off in the first one when Arnold Schwarzenegger rolled up in the club with the silencer. In the second movie, they kind of, I realized Terminator repeats itself.
Was it in the when they come to the insane asylum?
The insane asylum,
she runs into him,
and she sees him again, and she remembers, no, has that moment where she's crawling, like she thought she killed him, and then turns out the T-1000 he's actually there to help her.
Yeah, T-800.
The T-800 is there to help her.
To help her that time.
And John Connor shows up, and then the T-1000 shows up. And in this particular situation, Grace shows up and rock.
Oh, that first shot to the head was like, boo! That was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
that was.
And continues to completely whoop
and let's not. And I'm gonna give a shout out to my boy Triple H, because Grace also in that same scene takes a sledgehammer She takes a sledgehammer to him a couple of times and knocks him up pretty good too.
She's definitely faster and more agile than him, even though she's a cyborg basically in this. But that's one call out that I found. Another one which I thought was interesting, in the same factory, in that same scene, there's a callback to Terminator 1, in which, if you remember for this in the movie, there's a moment where she actually... they're in some type of factory with engines, and they drop this big machine and crush Rev 9,
right.
which is very reminiscent of T1 when Sarah Connor actually dropped that big piece of metal on top of Arnold.
Here's another awesome one that I didn't even know. I'm literally taking this from the internet. Cause Drapery phone number. In a blink and if you miss it reference to 1984 film, the phone number Cause Drapery is 888-512-1984 with May 12th, 1984, which is the release date of the first Terminator movie. I did not know that, and that is like uber nerd status if you figured that out on your own.
Good job, guys.
Because I did not know that whatsoever.
We found some ones here.
That was pretty awesome.
And we're bringing them to you. So another Easter egg that I found, those, again, most of mine are pretty much callbacks at this point. There's another moment where Sarah is looking at, they're in the prison, and if you remember from Terminator 1, basically, Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor's character is inside this facility where they're kind of prisoners, but they're inside this facility with a bunch of cops. And basically the villain shows up and kills a bunch of people trying to get to her. So in that same reminiscence,
must have a hard on for recreating that sequence where the bad guy's trying to get them through a whole bunch of people. I mean, it does make for a good slaughter fest.
It makes for a good slaughter fest, and it shows the Rev 9's power, so great callback there.
The last one I have, Death by Power Core. I didn't even know that they made a reference for Terminator 3, Rise of the Machine.
Yes.
Because the Power Core, literally that's how they killed the bad guy in the last one, which I didn't.
And she's trying to reach out, and Arnold is the one that's holding her and jams it into her mouth. And in this case, it's in the Rev 9's eye. So.
I'm like, I didn't even... And it also, you know, speaking of that, that also made sense too, like to jam it in his eye, because like a regular human being, if you jam it right in someone's eye, that's like a major, you know, artery or whatever. That
is a very, very major thing. A couple of other ones that are found just by like sort of a blink if you'll miss it. There's a callback, as I mentioned briefly before, when Sarah Connor first sees the person that they're meeting in the movie. That is at the coordinates, and it's Arnold. If you listen very closely, the audio that plays there is legitimately the same audio from Terminator 2, in which that plays as her memory of this guy. And she has a similar reaction, which the only difference this time around is she tries to shoot him with a shotgun. But that's another callback to Terminator 2. So this movie, in essence, is plenty filled with lots of homage and callbacks. And great like one-liners that are very important to the Terminator mythology altogether. But with that said, that is all the Easter eggs and callbacks that we found from watching the movie and the internet. So if you found any Easter eggs for Terminator Dark Fate, please let us know in the comments. Or reach out to us on any of our social media channels. Once again, I'm Markell.
And I'm Ronnie.
And this is the Ronnie and Markell Make a Podcast. Dark Fate is upon you. We'll be back, I think.
What's up, guys?
Hey, thank you for watching the video.
Did you like it?
Did you?
You probably just like the parts of me in it.
You really like the parts of me in it.
But anyway, if you like that video, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button there.
And if you don't, we have a bag of kittens with a baseball bat. And if you don't subscribe,
wow,
you know what's going to happen.
We're going to leave those kittens alone because we don't want any problems.